things are not looking good for Ubisoft. Their stock is at a 10-year low right now, guys, and this is coming right off of the launch week for one of their tentpole games this year, Star Wars Outlaws. It's freaking Star Wars. How is this possible? Well, we all know that Ubisoft has been slipping as of late into that DEI trap where all these companies want to cater to this modern audience. And it's like, yo, modern audience, where you at? Where you at, modern audience? So, yeah, a 10-year low. Yikes. So there's several different outlets reporting it. I have it pulled up from gamesindustry.biz, and the firm's stock decreased by 10% in 2 days after the game's release. This is a big fucking yikes here, guys, especially considering, once again, one of the biggest franchises ever, Star Wars, and this game, Outlaws, plus Assassin's Creed Shadows, were supposed to like carry Ubisoft well into this next year because these were their two big games. Now, Star Wars Outlaws released to mixed reception. There's still a lot of issues, glitches, bugs, all the usual stuff when it comes to an open world game, but this is bad. And I don't let's stop beating around the bush here, guys. Ubisoft as a company has failed gamers, especially when they've had things from community managers hating white males, when they've had community managers banning people for talking about UCK on subreddits, when they literally have been banning people from the Star Wars Outlaws Reddit for criticizing the game at all, when some of their executives are saying we should get comfortable not owning our games, when their pricing structures are ridiculous. $130 for the super premium deluxe Star Wars Outlaws edition. Is Slave Leia going to come and give me a blowjob if I buy this game? There's just reason after reason after reason why Ubisoft is going through so much trouble. And I think it's hitting a high point. And right after a big game release, yikes. So looking at this article a little bit, you can see it's saying they have taken a hit following the release of Star Wars Outlaws. Insider Gaming reported the share price of Ubisoft Entertainment fell to 15.50 euros. And it's the lowest it's been since 2014. The firm's market cap is currently 1.99 billion euros, right? So this is over in Europe, where it's also being reported that they didn't sell as many copies as they had hoped, which we're going to talk on that in a minute, whether this game is declared a flop or not at this point. So it says at this time of writing, this has dipped even lower to 15.34 euro per share with a market cap of 1.97 billion. And it says that it has experienced a weak launch, which physical launch sales in the UK are 55% lower than last year's Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Last year's Jedi Survivor, an actual action-oriented game where you play as, I think his name is Calsthesis. I still haven't even played the rest of Fallen Order, but it's definitely a whole different game with no female protagonist shoehorned in, no weird Ubisoft wokeness shoehorned in. And yeah, right now there's no digital release numbers for this title at the time, so there could be some missing data. And it's sitting at a overall score of 76 on Metacritic. It's generally unfavorable with a user score of 4.9. I have no clue, but according to this article, it says JP Morgan has reduced its sales forecast for the game by 2 million units as a result, and is now predicting 5.5 million copies to be sold by next March. Yikes, lowering expectations, guys. Now, it says it's unclear the impact this will have on Ubisoft's financial year. The publisher's off to a solid start, having outperformed its targets for first quarter 2024 in its latest financial report. I don't know, though. I don't know about this. So let's look a little bit more into this report right here, which courtesy of that Park Place, it's saying sales are 55% lower than Star Wars Jedi Survivor in the United Kingdom. So this is just in the UK. And says, according to Nintendo Life, Star Wars Outlaws topped the sales charts in the United Kingdom, besting Hogwarts Legacy, Elden Ring, Armored Core, and EA Sports FC 24. However, Christopher Dring, who's the game industry head, said launch sales are 55% lower than what Star Wars Jedi Survivor did, and it was 15% bigger than Ubisoft's Massive's last game, Avatar. So this is a tweet that came out, and he did follow up saying there's missing data from the physical numbers. So it's worth waiting for the end of the week when the digital stats are in. So we'll see. When you think about Ubisoft Plus, there's also been all this, day one stuff. That's the only reason why I played Star Wars Outlaws. It was on Ubisoft Plus Premium. How's that going to factor into the sales on top of, I guess, review codes that came out? I don't know. I is it too early to call this game a flop? Yes, but by that token, I would not be surprised at all if this game utterly lost money. I mean, think about it. It's Star Wars. They did spend a lot on the marketing budget for this video game. I mean, during wrestling, RGT said in his video, literally like every commercial break, there was a Star Wars advertisement. I believe at Bash in Berlin, Star Wars Outlaws was sponsoring a match. So they've been pushing this more than usual when it comes to an Ubisoft game. I don't remember anything with Avatar having advertisements or marketing. And it's one of the biggest franchises in the world. It's fucking Star Wars. Disney's behind this. I think Disney has expectations for how much stuff is sold. If this doesn't make its money back, at the very least, it's a failure. And I'm sure they spent a lot of money on this. And this is coming in wake of other video games coming out like Concord and Dustborn, which are nowhere near as even passable of a game like Star Wars Outlaws is. That Outlaws is by a mile so much better. But there's still that stink that Ubisoft has had within the last recent months or so. So who knows? Now, I want to turn your attention to a tweet that Stuttering Craig had. Shout outs to Stuttering Craig, who said that they have an insider who works for high traffic game stores in one of the most populated places in the US. They have 27 stores in the area, and there's only been a total of 41 pre-orders for Star Wars Outlaws. 41. There's no hype for this game. So if this is true, if this insider is 110% correct, and you think of how big, how much marketing, how much planning, how much development and time has gone into this game, only 41 pre-orders in one of the most populated places in the United States, which I know he lives in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, so maybe it's DFW Metroplex, to only have 41 pre-orders when they're expecting millions of copies sold. I don't think that's going to happen. Now, digital, there could be more digital sales and, factor in the Ubisoft Plus, but no, there's no way by March of next year. No. Did I read that right? Are they expecting this by March of next year? Let me go back to this right here and see. To be sold by next March. So it's not going to be the March coming up. I don't know. That's kind of confusing wording. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, there's absolutely no hype. It's a Star Wars game. Remember when Star Wars games were like a huge event, like Shadows of the Empire and even the Rogue Squadron games, and dare I even say the Battlefront EA games that came out that weren't even that great? They were still huge events. This one kind of came like a fart in the wind. I've played like 15, 16 hours of it. It started off really fucking boring. I was like, oh my God, this is so tedious. Everything's a fetch quest. Everything's just so stupid. This doesn't feel like Star Wars. Then, the game opened up, but honestly, the game just feels like a mishmash of a whole bunch of Ubisoft games put together. That's really what it fucking feels like. And I know a lot of people are tired of the Ubisoft formula. They feel it's cheap. They feel it's so great. But anyways, it remains to be seen if it's flopped or not. But this is not a good look. If this is accurate, 27 stores and there's only been 41 pre-orders, that's ridiculous. You would think at least each location would have at least 40 pre-orders. 27 times 40, however much, that sounds pretty reasonable for a city. Now, here's a follow-up that he had in regards to Concord, which we know has already bombed and everything. He said their insider told him in June, July, August, Concord only had 231 pre-orders company-wide. 91 of them were canceled before the shutdown of the game. They sold 140 copies of Concord in over 900 stores. It's roughly one copy for every 6 stores. So they have what seems to be a pretty reliable insider. You can say they even talked about over 900 stores and that's less than one pre-order per store with Assassin's Creed Shadows, that there's only 800 pre-orders combined for this big box retail store, right? Assassin's Creed Shadows, the next game that Ubisoft is relying to get themselves through the rest of this year and for the foreseeable future. Star Wars Outlaws and Assassin's Creed Shadows. So if they're both not being pre-ordered, like if there's literally only 41 pre-orders for Star Wars Outlaws and less than 800 pre-orders total out of 900 stores. This isn't going to cut it. This is not going to cut it, which is why investors are pulling out. Share price is dropping. This is going to get ugly before it gets better, guys. And honestly, at this point, I'm thinking Ubisoft doesn't know how to course correct itself. Because again, companies like Ubisoft, they're focused on DEI, inclusivity. They literally have a whole bunch of people working for them now that would rather do anything but make a good video game. And you hate to see it because this company is a shell of its former self. Even just 5 years ago, even just 5 years, hell, I'd even say even when Valhalla came out, they were still doing pretty decent. Now it's like you see all these employees coming, their community managers, see all this wokeness being promoted, everything but, hey, let's make great entertaining games. And I think video games should be entertaining, but apparently everybody in the gaming industry, whether they're a journalist, a developer, community manager, they think otherwise. Just us right-wing grifters are the only ones calling it out, right? Anyways, what do you guys think about Star Wars? Do you think it's not going to make its goal? I don't think it's going to make it by next March. I think this game is going to lose money. Subscribe if you're brand new. I'll see you in the next one.